Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope you can all hear me. Okay. Alhamdulillah. Once again, you are welcome. Thank you so very much for being part today. I've seen one or two persons um, already joining, in fact, before the class, alhamdulillah. Today, we are going to continue with our discussion on ism, and inshallah, we'll conclude the ism part today. Yes, generally, for some of you who have not yet received your emails, particularly to the Edmodo platform, please share your email addresses and ensure that you can follow up with all the exercises. Okay, Antomo is saying she cannot hear me. I think then there is maybe a problem with your sound. Most probably you have to check your sound system by clicking on the small caret button on the right side of your mic. There's a small arrow looking forward there, looking to the top, or looking to the upwards direction. You click on that, and then you will see audio settings. Okay, alhamdulillah. Okay, mashallah. So we can now start. We can now start, inshallah. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Once again, we are learning Nahu, but we are learning Nahu in the way that make it easy for us to connect directly with the verses of Al-Quran before even looking into a translation. So we are learning how the concept of Arabic language works, particularly in terms of understanding the Quran. As I've been mentioning from the beginning of the course, that teaching Arabic language is different from what we are doing now. What we do is not to teach you how to speak the language, but to teach you how the nature of the language is, and how to be able to connect with the language very easily, using the concept or through the concept of how the language behaves. And so we have discussed the structure of the language, saying that the structure of the language is the level of the words, and then the level of the fragments, the level of the sentences. So these are the three different levels for the language Arabic. And so if you understand it that way, then we pick the first one, which is the level of the kalima. And we divided it into three. We said that the kalima is divided into ism, fi'l, and harf. We have been concentrating on the ism and intermittently working on harf, because we have defined all the three kinds of words in Arabic. And the ism, when we picked it up, we said every ism has 4 properties, of course, except the pronoun, which has 5. I mean, the pronoun has another property, which is the shakhs, or the person. We discussed all the 4 properties: SNGT, status, number, gender, and type, as well as the person, which we spoke about yesterday. And today we are going to continue on the person of the pronoun and see how the pronoun behaves. In Arabic, the pronoun is, as we say, the backbone of this language. ضمير هو العمود الفقري للغة العربية. The language depends so much on the pronouns and the who, he, sorry, who, here, whom, here, huma, huwa, huma, who, here, huma, hunna, anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna, which we learned yesterday. Ana and nahnu. These pronouns need to be mastered. And this is one of the things we are going to do very early in the morning today. And then we do the actual lessons for today, and that is the fragments. So we are going to learn how an ism can come together with another ism to form a single concept, or one concept. In that case, 2 isms, or an ism and a half, would come together to form one concept, meaning the both of them stand as one in the language, and we need to know how to detect those fragments in Arabic. Today, inshallah, we'll look at them. They will be very easy to actually pick up because, as I said, a majority of you know exactly the terminologies, but then the arrangement that we are doing here is the only different thing. So inshallah, we'll learn all the fragments today. But before that, the pronouns that we took yesterday, huwa, huma, hum, hiya, huma, hunna, anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna, ana, and nahnu, they are known as the independent pronouns, الضمائر المنفصلة. Munfasila in the sense that they can stand alone. So huwa, huma, hum, hiya, huma, hunna, anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna, ana, and nahnu. These are the pronouns, and those pronouns all definitely have meaning. Okay, huwa means he, huma, both of them, male, hum, all of them, male, hiya, she, female singular, huma, female pair, and then hunna, also female plural. But all the 6 pronouns mentioned here are all in the 3rd person, ay al-ghaib, 3rd person. And then anta means you, singular, masculine, antuma, pair, masculine, antum, plural, masculine. So pair, you, and then plural also means you. So in English, the singular, the pair, the plural is all you, you, okay? So when you say anta means you, antuma means you, and antum simply means you in English. And that's how English is deficient in that case, in terms of the versatility of the language and producing or giving us more words to use for pronouns. In English, you can only say you for the singular, pair, plural for masculine, even as well as the feminine. So here, sorry, anta, antuma, antum, and then anti, antuma, antunna. In English, is still you. Anti is you, antuma, feminine pair, you, and antunna, feminine pair, is also you. So it depends on the context in English, isn't it? So in the 2nd person, you realize that in English, all the 6 pronouns are translated as you, depending on the context, for you to be able to understand if it is masculine or feminine, or if it is singular, pair, or plural, right? And definitely the definition that we are using now, all of them, the parameters we use for the definition, which is the status, number, gender, and type, is very important in any aspect of the ism. The last line of the pronouns are ana and nahnu, I and we. So I, ana, and we, nahnu. And so yesterday we also mentioned that that particular level has only one line, because both the masculine and feminine will be I, and both the masculine and feminine, as well as pair and plural, will also say nahnu. So ana and nahnu is used at the last level of the pronoun. So major thing to understand about the pronouns is that pronouns are the backbone of this language, and they are divided into two. We did one of them yesterday. Today we are going to do the other part. The one we did yesterday was the independent pronoun, the ma'ir al-munfasila, pronouns that stand alone in their meaning and in their form, as well as in a sentence. Anytime you see them, you will see them not attached to any word. They can always stand alone. That is, those are the pronouns that we learned yesterday. Today we are going to learn other pronouns or their equivalent attached version. So every pronoun has its equivalent attached. Every independent pronoun has its equivalent attached one. It sometimes might be written the same, but you need to understand what the meaning of an attached pronoun is. Attached pronoun means that the pronoun can be attached to an ism, or it can be attached to a fi'l. Definitely, these are or a harf, of course, or a harf, because these are the words. So ism, a pronoun can be attached to an ism, and it can be attached to a fi'l, and it can be attached to a harf. So we can have a pronoun attached to an ism like Rabbana. Rabbana. So the word Rabb is an ism, Na is an attached pronoun. When I say Rabbuhu, the Rabb is an ism, and Hu is an attached pronoun. When I say Rabbi, Rabb is an ism, and E is an attached pronoun. Now, how do we understand, how do we know these attached pronouns? We need to learn them as we did to the independent ones yesterday. Okay. Now, I will take you through a very quick drill. So I'm having some questions from some of you regarding the Edmodo quiz. Okay, yes, so we can talk about those ones, inshallah, afterwards. So please remind me. We will talk about the Edmodo quizzes and some of the questions that might have. Don't forget to remind me before it close, inshallah. Okay, so the pronouns are huwa, huma, hum, here, huma, hunna. So yesterday I remember telling you that huwa, huma, hum is the first line. So the first line of the first level, that is the third person, the guy. Then here, huma, hunna. Then anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna, and then ana, nahnu. Now, each pronoun has its equivalent, and this is the drill we are going to do together. Now, get ready for us to do this before we go on to our slides. Now, just focus on what we did yesterday, and then follow me with what I am saying. Try to just put it in your mind like that, memorize it. This time we need to memorize. It will be more like a rhyme. We rhyme it together, and then we pick it like that. But don't remember, don't forget what we learned yesterday. The huwa, huma, hum, here, huma, hunna, anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna, ana, anna. We need to put that in. Of course, that arrangement, you remember, I mean, huwa, huma, hum is singular, pair, plural. Okay, singular, pair, plural. So the huwa is singular, the huma is pair, and then the hum is plural. Of course, based on the methods that we have learned in this program, we said that anytime I mention three things, I'm talking about the number, singular, pair, plural. And anytime I mention the right side, depending on what I'm talking about, if it's normal ism, then I will be talking about the status, rafa, nasb, jar. But if it's a pronoun, then I'll be talking about the persons, third person, second person, and first person. So huwa, huma, hum, here, huma, humna, all these six are on the third person level. Anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna is on the second person level. and then ana nahnu is on the third person, sorry, on the first person level. Now, listen to me as I attach each pronoun with its own attached, the independent and the attached. So I will say huwa, hu, he. Huwa, hu, he. Now, what is the hu, he? Hu, he means who, which is a damir, and he, which is another damir. And these are the equivalent of huwa as an attached pronoun. So just take it like that. So huwa, hu, he. Homa, homa, hima. So homa is an independent pronoun. Its attached equivalent is homa and hima. So it can be homa and it can be hima. I will explain why, who, and the he. And then when you go to the third extreme top left corner, at the top left, we have whom. So whom, him. Whom, him. So whom, him. When I say whom, the first whom is the independent pronoun. The second whom and him are both attached. So whom, if it's an independent, but if it's an attached, it can be whom and it can be him. That's what it means. So when I say whom, him, I mean whom independent and whom, him are the attached pronouns. Okay? So that's the first line. So I will say that again. Huwa, hu, he. Homa, homa, hima. And then whom, him. Again, huwa, hu, he. Homa, homa, hima. Then whom, him. So that's how you will take it. Huwa, hu, he. Homa, hima. Whom, him. I'm going to call somebody to volunteer and read this out for me, inshallah. Let's go to the next level. The next level is hiya, homa, hunna. So here, ha. So here goes with ha. So that's how it goes. Here, ha. Then homa, hima. Homa, hima. Homa is the independent pronoun for a second person singular feminine. And then homa, hima is the attached pronoun for a singular second person feminine. Okay? Sorry, third person feminine. So homa, hima is the same thing as the masculine actually. Homa, hima. And then hunna, hinna. Hunna, hinna. So hunna is an independent pronoun, and hunna, hinna are both equivalent of its attached when it's an attached state. Okay. So let's do all the third persons together now. Huwa, hu, he. Homa, hima. Whom, him. Here, ha. Homa, hima. Hunna, hinna. So I'm sure you know where I am moving and where I am, because yesterday we already decided that that table needs to be drawn in our minds, right? So when I say huwa, hu, he, you know I'm on the first box at the extreme right. When I say homa, hima, I'm on the second box in the middle at the top. And then when I say whom, him, I'm talking about the extreme left at the top corner. Then the second line of the first level is here, ha. So here is the independent, ha is the attached. And then homa, hima, I mean homa for feminine, and homa, hima, the attached equivalent. And then hunna, hinna is the last or the extreme right of the second line of the first level. So hunna, hinna. So this is all for the third person. Then we come to the second person. Anta goes with ka. So any anta, the equivalent attached is what? Ka. So anta, ka. Then antuma, kuma. Antuma, kuma. So anytime you hear kuma, is actually the equivalent of antuma. So antuma, kuma. And then antum, kum. Antum, kum. So anytime you hear kum, is actually the attached equivalent of antum. Antum. Okay. So in that line, I will have anta, ka, antuma, kuma, antum, kum. Then we come to the second line of the second level, and that is second person singular feminine. Anti, ki. So anti goes with ki. So anytime you hear ki, is about anti, but it's an attached pronoun now. Okay, so anti ki. Antuma kuma and antunna kunna. So antunna goes with kunna. So anytime you hear kunna, is talking about antunna, but in an attached state. So let's finish the second level now for the second person. Anta ka, antuma kuma, antum kum, anti ki, antuma kuma, antunna kunna. Right? So now we have finished the third person, the second person. Huwa, hu, he, huma, huma, hima, hum, him, here, ha, huma, hima, hunna, hinna, anta, ka, antuma, kuma, antum, kum, anti, ki, antuma, kuma, antunna, kunna. So the last line is ana. So ana, the attached equivalent is e or ni. So it has two different attached pronouns. E or ni. I will explain this too later. So ana, e, ni. That's what we say. Ana, e, ni. And then nahnu, na. Nahnu, na. So ana, you remember that on that level of ana, we say the singular part is for both male and female. So the male will say ana in Arabic, and the female will also say ana in Arabic. Whereas the nahnu is used for both male and female also, and in fact, for also pair and plural. So nahnu is for pair, plural, masculine, feminine, okay? So ana is ini, and then nahnu is na. So anytime you hear na, like rabbana, is about nahnu. So that's how we put it in our mind. So we say ana, ini, nahnu, na. Okay, so let's look at the pronoun from the beginning now, and I will take it and I will go through it 3 times. And believe me, my brothers, I do these things and I love doing it, because even though I would be rattling it as it sounds weird, and why would you be doing that? But it makes it easy for me to remember these pronouns when I take them as a joke, as a fun. Okay, when I say huwa, hu, he, homa, hima, hum, him, here, ha, homa, hima, hunna, hinna, anta, ka, antuma, kuma, antum, kum, anti, ki, antuma, kuma, antunna, kunna, ana, ini, and then nahnu, na. You know, I will joke with it. I will get to understand it that way and pick it up. The moment it gets seated in my mind, believe me, it saves me a lot when it comes to my application of the pronouns. Okay? So, again, huwa, hu, he. Say after me. Huwa, hu, he. Huma, hima. Hum, him. Here, ha. Huma, hima. Hunna, hinna. Anta, ka. Antuma, kuma. Antunna, kunna. Ana, ini. Nahnu, na. Okay, so that is how the pronoun goes. Again, huwa, hu, he, homa, hima, hum, him, here, ha, homa, hima, hunna, hinna, anta, ka, antuma, kuma, antum, kum, anti, ki, antuma, kuma, antunna, kunna, ana, ni, and nahnu na. Okay. So generally, these are the pronouns, and this is where we are going to end it. And definitely, some of the questions that you will be asked a lot of the time when we are treating the pronoun is how you are able to identify it based on its definition. So for instance, if I say, what is the definition of home? Home. What you have to give me is the SNGT and then the P, or PSNGT. You give me the person, you give me the status, you give me the gender, you give me the number, and probably you can give me the time, the type. Okay. So you can easily say home is a third person plural masculine. Third person plural masculine. Third person because he's part of the third persons, and the third person, you remember yesterday, I said all the third person pronouns in Arabic are having the ha, okay? They are all third persons. The huwa, huma, hum, hiya, huma, hunna, anta, antuma, antum, sorry, huwa, huma, hum, and then hiya, huma, hunna. All those six are third persons. And you can see that they are starting with ha, right? Very key for us to mark. And then the second persons are anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna. They all start with ant. And then ana and nahnu, the easy ones below, those ones are just kept as they are and very unique. Ana and nahnu, okay? So basically that is the concept. But let me also explain the who, he. Why who, he? Why huma, hima? Why hunna, hinna? And why ini? Now note this. You need to note this, very important. The who, he are actually the same thing. They don't differ in the meaning. They are both attached pronoun for huwa. So rabbuhu and fi, or min indihi, for instance. I would say min indihi, okay? But rabbuhu or rabbahu. So the who and he, the who and he as a pronoun, the ruling says that you use who anytime a preceding letter of the pronoun is having either fatha or dhamma. But if the preceding letter is having kisra, then you use he. So it's the same thing. So it's a matter of sequencing, or what they call the flow, or what they call the phonemic consonants. Okay, when you want to, in Arabic, there is something they call salasa, which means Arabic is a very flowing language. Anything that will make it sound awkward, they desert it. You don't want to say, for instance, Rabbuhi, for instance. Rabbuhi is, it's awkward to say than to say Rabbuhu. Rabbuhu flows smoothly, okay? But when I say Rabbihi, you can see that that flows easier than saying Rabbihu, Rabbihu. You see, it makes your lips a little bit awkward, and that is not, it's not part of the, so in Arabic language, the Arabs will say it's not part of the features of Arabic language that your mouth will look awkward, you know? So anytime it's having u before the who, you use the who. If it is having a before the who, you use the who. But if it is having an e before the who, then you use he. So that is the ruling. I hope this is clear. The same thing with whom and the same thing with hunna. Okay, and that's why we had the huwa, who, he. So the who, he depends on the word that the attached pronoun is attached to. If it's attached to a word which last letter is having fatha or dhamma, it takes the who version. But if it is attached to a word which last letter is having kisra, then it will take the he. Okay, and then the last point I would like to explain here is the e and ni. The e and ni is, there are two different attached pronouns. One is for attaching to an ism, okay? Attaching to an ism or a harf, okay? An ism or a harf. Whenever a pronoun is ana and is being attached to an ism or a harf, then it will take the E version. I need you to take note of this, very important. So I will say Rabbi, or Indi, or Fi, or Ma'i. So these words, either harf or ism, they are attached to, whenever you want to attach a pronoun of ana to it, then you have to use the E. But if it is a fi'l that the pronoun is being attached to and the pronoun is for ana, then you use the ni. So for instance, you say, Ra'ani, he saw me. Wa kallamani, he spoke to me. Addabani, he trained me. Allamani, he taught me. So you can say allamai, for instance. So because it's a pronoun, when attached to a fi'l, you use the ni. But when attached to an ism or a harf, then you use the e. I hope that is also clear. So these are a bit that I needed to explain with a pronoun, and we can quickly move from that to our lesson for today. But let me share one slide before we go for a short break. Okay, I hope you can see my slide. Good. Can you see my slides, please? Okay, alhamdulillah. Now, so this is what we have just discussed, right? We said a pronoun has this particular special property, and that is a shakhs, or the person. It's either third person, second person, or first person. And of course, we already know about the gender, either either masculine or feminine, feminine, and masculine, feminine. Why are these merged together? Because this level of the pronoun is actually used for both masculine and feminine, the same, no difference. But the first two, the third person and the second person, are different. And so one of the features we took for the third person plural pronouns are that they all have a her at the beginning. And all the second person pronouns, the independent ones, I mean, they all having the word ta, ta. But for the attached, now look at the attached pronoun for the second person. You see that they are all also peculiar, that they have a ka, 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 okay? Antuma, koma, antum, kum, anti, sorry, so you see ka, ki, koma, koma, konna, konna. So anytime you hear ka, 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 ka in Arabic is about second person. The same thing when you hear ant, 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 ant is about second person. So these are some of the peculiar things that we learn in Arabic. And in this particular program, we'll give you these markers. So it's become easy for you detecting a pronoun. So for you to hear ka, and then you'll be thinking it's about hua or here, then you are far away. But the moment I hear ka or ki, koma, ka, koma, koma, and then kunna, kin, kum, kunna, kum, kunna is about second person. So it's in English, it's even easier, because in English, anytime I will say in English, anytime you hear ant is about you. In fact, in the English, the whole of this is actually you. So anta is you, okay? Antuma is you, and antum is also you. Anti is you, antuma is you, and antuna is also you, depending on the context, of course, right? So these are some of the features. And then finally, we spoke about the first person here, where we say the E is used to attach to an ism or a harf, and then the ni is used to attach to a fi'l. Okay. Now note, let me give you a hint or a particular teaser here before we do other fragments. Anytime you see the E attached to an ism, then there is a concept called idafa, and we are going to learn it today. So E, anytime you see E, okay, there is idafa if it's an ism, or if it's attached to harf jar, then it is majroor. So the jar or majroor and then idafa are always in having this. If it's a pronoun, whenever it's attached to an ism or a harf, it then becomes idafa or majroor. Okay, but when it is the ni, then it is maf'ul bihi. Maf'ul bihi. So when I say darabani or akelani, he fed me. So the ni is maf'ul. Okay. So these are some of the tips I'll give you here beforehand, but I'm sure definitely we'll come to see a lot of that. Okay. So huwa, hu, he, huma, huma, hima, hum, him, here, her, huma, huma, hima, hunna, hunna, hinna, anta, ka, antuma, kuma, antum, kum, anti, ki, antuma, kuma, antunna, kunna, ana, ni, and then nahnu, na. First, nahnu, na, both for pair and plural. We could have just merged everything here as one. Okay. Then finally, for this part of this segment of the program, pronouns are of two types. This is what we said. Independent pronouns, they are always in rafa status. Now note, every independent pronoun is marfu'. Isn't that interesting? Every independent pronoun is in rafa status. Please mark this. Status is rafa. But if it is an attached pronoun, then it can either be mansub or majrur. So it can be nasb when attached to a fi'l or a harf. Sorry, when it's attached to a fi'l, then it is mansub. Sorry. Okay. But when it is attached to an ism or harf jar, then it is what? Then it is majrur. If it's attached to an ism, it's mudaf ilayhi. When it's attached to a harf jar, then it is majrur. Ismun majrur. Okay. So that is that for the pronouns. And this chart, I'm sure you have it in your books or in your handout. You can see what we just spoke about. Third person, second person, first person. And then in the third person, we have huwa, huma, hum, hiya, huma, hunna. And these are the equivalent pronouns as attached. So we have huwa, hu, he, huma, hima, hum, him, hiya, ha, huma, hima, hunna, hinna. And you can see that here it says that huwa means he, always in rafa. Huma is also both of them, okay? And then they, masculine, also rafa. But hu, he is an attached pronoun. It can be nasb and it can be jar. Nasb or jar. Now note, both of them can be nasb or jar. So who can be nasb or jar, and he can also be nasb or jar. But this one doesn't mean who is for jar or he is for jar and who is for nasb. No. Who can be in nasb status or jar status. He can also be in nasb status or jar status. We'll see example of a lot of this. Okay. Huma, hima, the same thing. The huma and hima can only be in nasb and jar. The whom, him can also be in nasb and jar. Now note, whom is the same as whom. But what we are saying here is that it can be independent and it can also be attached, depending on the context. If you see it attached to an ism, it can also always be whom. It can also be him, depending, of course, on the harf that came before it. But the shape of the attached and the independent can be the same. Okay. But the most important thing is that this one stands alone. This one is attached to another word. Okay. And the same thing for her when it's attached and when it's independent. Huma for feminine when it's attached and when it's independent. Hunna when it's attached and when it's independent. Anta when it's independent, which is me, which means you. Rafa, masculine singular. Antuma, both of you. Rafa, okay. Pair, this is pair, okay. Antuma, pair, masculine. Antum is Rafa status. Why? Because it's an independent pronoun. It means you, masculine plural. And then ka, nasb or jar. So ka can either be in nasb or jar. For instance, when I say ra'aytuka, I saw you, it's in mansub. Okay? Ji'tu ilayka, I came to you. It's majrur because of the ila and so on. We'll see example of these ones. Okay? And so anta ka, antuma kuma, antum kum, antiki, antuma kuma, antunna kunna, ana nahnu. Ana ini, and then nahnu na. Okay, you read this in your pamphlet. Inshallah, we'll come back to do a lot of exercises on them. Inshallah. We'll take a short break and come back and do our lesson today proper. And that is fragment. We'll start fragment in the next 5 minutes, inshallah. Stay on. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. I hope you can all hear me. Yes, okay, mashallah. Seeing some comments on the chat box. Okay, that tells me that you are following. Alhamdulillah. Okay. Inshallah. The question regarding some of the, I hope the Edmodo, some of you are doing the Edmodo questions because really it helps. And so if there is any specific question anyone has, you can just put the question on and then we will address it at the end, tail end of the class, inshallah. If you can be specific, because we don't, we would not relent in getting all our questions answered as far as it has to do with the course that we are given, inshallah. But just be specific and give us the question that you need a clarification on, inshallah. Okay. Let's go back to our slides. Okay, now we've done with the pronouns. Now this is the first fragment. Now note, you remember when we did start talking about the structure of the language. Let me just discuss this. The structure of the language, we said we have the word level, ism, fi'l, harf. We are holding on to the fi'l for now, but at least we have learned something, a bit about the harf and then the fi'l, the definition. And now we are talking about ism. And we have discussed all kinds of isms, or the pronoun ism, the ismul mawsul is an ism, the ismul ishara is an ism, name of any other thing, an idea is an ism, an adverb is an ism, an adjective is an ism. All those pronouns, all those parts of speech that we know in Arabic, that in English, that are equivalent to an ism. But now we are going to learn certain things called fragments. And these fragments, in fact, a chunk of them make up the concept or the actual body of every sentence. You hardly have a sentence without having them in there. And those fragments, though they are two words, but they are considered one concept. And so if you are not careful, you want to translate them separately, it gives you more problem. But if you understand them as one concept, then you know that, okay, now it helped me even get to understand the statement or the Arabic verse easier and quicker. So those fragments are 5, and we spoke about them in our first lessons. We said we have something called idafa, we have jar wa majrur, we have mawsuf and sifa, mawsuf or sifa, and then we have inna wa asma'iha, or inna wa akhwatuha wa asma'iha. So we have certain harfs that are known as inna and the sisters. Whenever you see an inna and the sisters, the ism that comes after them, both the harf and the ism make up a concept. And then the last one is ismul ishara and mushar ilayhi. Asmal ishara are the pointer words. Anytime there is an ism after them with alif and lam, both of them constitute another concept of fragment. So these are the 5 different fragments. We'll go through them, but what I want you to understand about them is that they move from level of saying I'm dealing with one word to dealing with 2 words that make a concept before we come to more than 1 word. So we are moving from 1 word, an ism, to isman bimafhumin wahid. 1 is 2 words with 1 concept. Okay, we have 5 types of those in Arabic, and if you are able to identify them, it makes life easy really for you understanding the language. Okay, inshallah. Now let's look at this, and we're going to go fast on this because I mean by this at least we will be able to finish what we are supposed to do. The fragments are known as the murakkaba or a murakkabat naqisa or murakkabatun naqisa. One of them is called idafa. Idafa. In English, sorry, in Arabic, literally, it means possession. One possesses the other. Okay, so possessive case. Okay, idafa. This is the first fragment that we are going to learn. Now, let's learn some of the rules of this idafa. We have in idafa, we have mudaf and mudaf ilayhi. There are two words that are significant in this particular concept. The first one is called mudaf. And the mudaf is a word that comes after of in your translation. And it's always light. I'm sure by now you know what light means in this particular program. Light doesn't mean it has a bulb. Light means it that light means it is not munawwan, and it has no the n sound. So for instance, baytun and baytu, for instance, okay? Baytun and baytu. Baytun is heavy, baytu is light. Okay? So you for instance, when I want to say bayt, hada baytun, is a house. Okay? It's very easy. But when I say hada baytullahi, I can't say hada baytun Allah. I have to say hada baytullahi. This is the house of Allah. So the word baytun, hada baytun, and hada baytullahi. Why is it that the baytu in the first instance is having the n sound? In the second instance is not having the n sound. That means it's not tanween. The reason is that the second bayt is mudaf. So a mudaf is always light. Light means ghair munawwan, okay? No alif alam. That word will also have no alif alam. So when I say baytullahi, I can't say al baytullahi, right? So baytullahi, because bayt is mudaf in that case, right? The second word in this particular concept is called mudaf ilayhi. So we have mudaf and we have mudaf ilayhi. Now that mudaf, which comes before of in your translation when you say the house of Allah, okay? The house of Allah. So the house is before of. Now, the word Allah, lafzul jalala, is after of. So that is the mudaf ilayhi. And it has to be in the status of jar. So that's why you cannot say baytullahu or baytullaha. You can't, because there is a concept of idafa. And in the concept of idafa, the mudaf ilayhi is always majroor. What about the mudaf? No, the mudaf can be marfu, it can be mansub, it can be majroor. But the mudaf ilayhi must always be majroor. Very good. And it does not accept distance relationship, which means you can't separate between mudaf and mudaf ilayhi. They are always together. And that makes it easy to identify, right? Yes. So mudaf, mudaf ilayhi, they don't allow anything between them. And you see the first one is light and the second one is majroor. Now note, when I say majroor, it doesn't mean maksur. It doesn't mean it has kisra. Please note this, it's very important. Majroor means it's in the status of jar. Status of jar doesn't mean kisra. We did mention this, and it is one of the confusion that all of us have when it comes to nahu. Majroor doesn't mean maksur. Majroor means a status of jar. Now that status of jar can render the word to have kisra. It can have any other of those endings that we spoke about, right? I've shared that template on the WhatsApp page, which I shared yesterday. So in case of jar, so jar can be kisra, it can be aini, it can be ina, it can be atin, depending on the word. And it can even not show at all if it is damir. So if it's a pronoun like who or he, it will not show the kisra. In fact, the he in the pronoun is not kisra. That one is a harf, is mabni. It's a sound that the who or he is built on. It doesn't change. So you can't say majrurun bil kisra in the case of rabbihi, fi rabbihi. For instance, when I say fi rabbihi, rabbi is majrur because it's harf, it's preceded by fi, but he is majrur because it's mudaf ilayhi, but it's not majrur bi kasra. But it is fi mahal jar. Okay, fi mahal jar. Okay, so when I say majrur, it does not necessarily mean that it has to be having kisra. Okay, please note that. Good. It doesn't allow long distance. So mudaf and mudaf ilayhi are always attached to one another. They are not separated by any word. Okay. Then the last point here says that the type of the mudaf is indicated by the type of the mudaf ilayhi. Now, what is type? You remember the type, common or proper. So if the mudaf ilayhi is proper, then the mudaf becomes proper. But if the mudaf ilayhi is common, then the mudaf will also be common. So that's what it means here. Okay, so the mudaf ilayhi determines the type of the mudaf. So for instance, when I say Baytullahi, you translate it as the house of Allah. Now, why do I say the house whilst it's not al-bayt? It's because bayt is mudaf to Allah and Allah is a proper name. So the bayt now يكتسب التعريف من لفظ الجلالة. It also becomes mu'arraf because the lafz al-jalala is proper. Okay, so that's the meaning of the mudaf having to take the type of the mudaf ilayhi. Okay, good. And of course, the mudaf ilayhi can also be nakira, or it can also be common. Okay, and in that case, the mudaf will also be common. Okay, very good. Lastly, both the mudaf and mudaf ilayhi should be isms. So no harf and no fi'l is involved in idafa. No harf and no fi'l. So whenever you hear mudaf ilayhi, both are isms. They can be ism, they can be an ism and damir, and so on, right? Very good. These are the basic kinds of idafa. There are three of them. Idafa can be translated with an of. For instance, when I say Imamu al-Masjidi, so Imam of the, so sorry, the Imam, it's not Imam, okay, the Imam. You can say Imam of the Masjid or the Imam of the Masjid. So this means the of, this word of, you can see that one of the words is after of, one is before of. So one before of is the mudaf, the one after of is the mudaf ilayhi. The one before of has no alif and lam, and it is light, and it's followed by ism majroor. Okay, in this case you can see the kisra as alamat al-jar. The second type of idafa is a pronoun attached to an ism, like baytuhu. Baytu is an ism, hu is a pronoun attached to an ism. So this is another kind of idafa. Okay, his house. Okay, his house, or house of, or the house of his, the house of his. Okay, the house of his. So this is actually mudaf ilayhi. Okay, so the he here is majroor. Don't forget, this one is majroor. That's the point here. I hope we are following. So baytullahi, baytu is mudaf, who is mudaf ilayhi. So baytu is marfu, but who is fi mahal jar. Okay, so mabniyun, this is how we say it in our normal conservative way of learning the Arabic in Arabic. Sorry, the Nahaw in Arabic, when we say hu damirun mabniyun ala dhamma fi mahal jar mudafun ilayhi. Okay, because it's mudaf ilayhi, it is in jar status. So all you have to note is that anytime I see a pronoun attached to an ism is mudaf ilayhi and it's in the status of jar. Okay, very good. The last type of idafa is idafa with a special mudaf. Now we'll talk about these special mudafs. Special mudafs are zarfs. Okay, here we call them special mudafs. They are zarf. Okay, like tahta, adverbs of place. Okay, or time, of course. Okay, zarf is always mudaf. So you can't have the word tahta standing alone. It's always mudaf. That's why they are known as special mudafs, which means they don't come and stand alone. Like tahta, fawqa, bayna, khalfa. We'll talk about them now. Okay. So in this case, you don't have an off translation. Okay, but they cannot also be separated. You can see that they don't allow distance. Tahta al-ard, fawqa al-ard. Okay, and then baytullah. Sorry, baytuhu. and then Imam al-Masjid. You can see that you can't put anything between the mudaf and the mudaf ilayh. So these are the three types of idafa. Now let's look at the special mudafs. These words, you just have to go and learn them and get to know them. They are the words that are known as special mudafs. Okay, fawqa, qabla, inda, amama, qaddama, all the meanings are here. Tahta, ba'da, ma'a, khalfa, wara'a, duna, bayna, hawla, ladun. These words are all known as special mudafs because they cannot stand alone. They are always mudaf. And the words after them are isms that are mudaf ilayhi. Okay, but these mudafs, okay, you can always see them that they are always mudafs and are always in the status of nasb. You can see the ka, fawqa, mabni, we call them mabni, okay? But they are always in the status of nasb. But these ones, ba'du, kullu, gairu, these ones can be in rafa, nasb, or jar status. So they can change. So you can have ba'du, ba'da, ba'di, but you cannot have fawqa, fawku, fawki, for instance. This one can change to all the status, but this one cannot change. They are always in nasb, okay? But you just have to learn that these are what we call the special mudafs in this particular course, okay? And then, because we are talking about idafa, we will talk about special isms. These special isms are always mudaf, okay? They are always mudaf. And these are the isms that we spoke about. You remember when I said, if you remember this very clearly, when we started, I said that the fatha, kisra, dhamma are signs for rafa status, nasb status, and jar status, but they are not the only ones. And we mentioned the ending combinations, as well as we mentioned the waw, yaw, and alif. So now waw, yaw, and alif, they will represent, or they will be signs for rafa, nasb, jar, or rafa, waw, alif, and ya, or rafa, nasb, jar, respectively, in words that are known as special isms. So in the special isms, you can not have fatha as the sign of nasb. You cannot have dhamma as the sign of rafa, and you cannot have kisra as the sign of jar. You can rather have waw as the sign of rafa, alif as the sign of nasb, and ya as the sign of jar. Okay, so this is very important. That's why I said at the beginning, it's a mistake for us to say rafa means dhamma, nasb means fatha, and then jar means kisra. This particular topic explains it more. Special isms. Now, these are the special isms. Look at them. These words. Abun, akun, hamun, famun. These words, they are always mudafs. Look at them here. In their mudaf state, this is how they are. In the rafa status, you say abu. For instance, abuhu. Ana abuhu. I am his father. So in this case, the abu becomes mudaf and the hu becomes mudaf ilayh, but the abu is in rafa status. Okay? So on here, abu, this abu becomes abu, akh becomes akhu, ham becomes hamu, fu becomes famun, it becomes fu, and zu is here. Zu is always mudaf. That one does not stand alone. The rest of the four can stand alone, and they are here, but zu is always mudaf. Now, the reason we are bringing them here is that they all belong to the concept of idafa. So anytime you hear abu and ahu and hamu and fu and zu, they are always in idafa state. So they are mudafs. Okay? So I say abuna, or abuki, or abuka, abahu, abana, abina, and so on. Akhi, or ahuhu, akhahu, and akhihi. Okay? Hamu, and then hamuhu, and hamahu, and hamihi. Okay? And then fuhu, and fahu, and fihi. Zu mirratin, for instance. Okay? The aklin, or zi masgabatin. Okay? So these words are always coming as mudafs, but you cannot say is the sign of rafa is waw, sign of nasb here is alif, and sign of nasb jar here is ya. You can't say dhamma or fatha or kisra. You can't say ani or ina or aini. No, here is waw, alif, and ya. These are the signs of nasb, rafa, nasb, and jar. Okay, but the most important thing is to know that al-asma al-khamsa are part of the concept of idafa. Okay, because they are always mudafs when they are attached to another ism. Okay, but their signs for rafa, nasb, jar vary and differ from all other isms. They are the only ones that have waw as sign of rafa, alif as the sign of nasb, and ya as the sign of jar. Good. So that ends the first fragment. The second fragment is mawsuf sifa. Mawsuf sifa is also a concept where two isms come together and form one concept, and that's mawsuf and sifa. What is this mawsuf sifa? Now let's look at the rules. It says mawsuf must always be at the first or at the beginning of the word or the phrase, okay? And it's always one. Always one. So mawsuf is always one. There are two isms coming together. One of them is called mawsuf, one of them is called sifa. Now mawsuf will come first, then sifa. And that's why for some of us who have learned the Nahaw before, we know sifa mawsuf, right? But sifa mawsuf is actually a wrong way in our estimation after we come to learn that, well, in Arabic, you actually mentioned the mawsuf before the sifa. So when you say sifa mawsuf, you are actually doing it in English way. In English, you mentioned the sifa before the mawsuf, right? And ironically, we are learning Nahaw with English content. But for us to learn it as it is in Arabic, you have to note it according to the Arabic context. In Arabic context, the mawsuf comes first before the sifa. So we say mawsuf sifa. We don't say sifa mawsuf. When we say beautiful girl, for instance, beautiful girl, bintun jamila, is bintun jamila. So bint is the mawsuf. We don't say jamilatun bint. We said bintun jamila. A beautiful girl is bintun jamila. But in Arabic, the bint is mentioned first, and that is the mawsuf. Okay? And then jamila is the sifa. So that's why here we say it's mawsuf sifa. Mawsuf sifa. Now, we are explaining the mawsuf, and we said the mawsuf will come first, and it's always one. Okay? Whilst the sifa has the same four properties like the mawsuf. What are the properties? You remember them, the SNGT. Status, number, gender, and type. They must match between the mawsuf and the sifa. And that makes mawsuf sifa very easy to identify. That anytime you see the mawsuf and sifa, you see them together and you see that they look alike. If this one has alif and lam, this one has alif and lam. If this one is having is marfu with dhamma, this one also will be marfu. If this one is mansub, this one is mansub. If this one is majroor, this one is majroor, and so, right? Now, it also comes after the mawsuf. So the sifa will come after the mawsuf, not before. Okay? But the sifa may be more than one. So you can have more than one sifa. But it can also tolerate long distance, which means you can separate between the mawsuf and sifa with certain words. Okay? You can separate between the sifa and mawsuf with certain words. So that is very important for us to note. Okay? Yes, it's not wa man'ut, but it's actually man'ut wa na'at, Aisha. This is what I'm explaining. It's actually it is man'ut wa na'at. Man'ut na'at, because the man'ut in Arabic is the one that comes first. Yes, we all learn it at na'at man'ut or sifa mawsuf. But actually in Arabic, as Arabic is, in English, when we say sifa mawsuf, we're actually following the English way of the concept, right? But the Arabic way of this concept is that the mawsuf is the first one. So that's why in this particular program we say mawsuf sifa, or you can even say man'ut na'at. I hope that is clear. Yes, very good. Okay, so the last thing we are mentioning here is that the mawsuf sifa can tolerate distance, which means you can separate between the sifa and mawsuf, unlike the mudaf and mudaf ilayh. Okay, like that poem that a lot of us know, when the poet says, لا تنهى عن خلق وتأتي مثله عار عليك إذا فعلت عظيم. Then they said عار and عظيم are موصوف and sifa. Okay, whilst they are separated with that phrase. إذا فعلت عار عليك إذا فعلت, then عظيم أي عار عظيم عليك. Okay, so you can separate between mawsuf and sifa. Now, how do I detect the sifa? When after I've seen the mawsuf, you just have to read through the line and finish the sentence or the ayah. Then you will see a word that is having the same attributes or the same properties with the other. That makes it the sifa of the mawsuf. Okay, so these are the rules for mawsuf and these are the rules for sifa. Then that is the second fragment that we are learning today. Now note here that the mawsuf can never be a pronoun, and the mawsuf can never be a pointer word, and the mawsuf can never be a relative pronoun. So you cannot have you cannot have a dhamir as a mawsuf, you cannot have ismul ishara as a mawsuf, and you cannot have ismul mawsul as a mawsuf. But again, sifa can never be ismul alam. For instance, a proper name can also not be a sifa, and a pronoun can also not be a sifa, as well as ismul ishara. You have to note this. Okay. Now note that ismul mawsul is not mentioned here. That means ismul mawsul can be a sifa. Okay. These points are very important to note regarding mawsuf and sifa. Okay. Very good. And then finally, look out for the non-human plurals and their feminine sifa. You remember this when we talk about the sifa mawsuf. Look at the sifa and look at the mawsuf. Al-kutubu saghiratun. The books, the small books, or the small, al-kutubu as-saghira, the small books. Now note, you see that this is the sifa and this is the mawsuf. Now look at the mawsuf and look at the sifa. This is describing that. This is describing that. This is the adjective, and this is the word, or the noun, in this case, the noun being described, right? Now, al-kutubu, you know, this word, though the singular form of this word is masculine, because here we're talking about the properties. The properties of both needs to match. And what are the properties? The SNGT, status, number, gender, type. The status is rafa, so it's marfu, marfu. Number is plural. Now this is plural, but this one is singular feminine. Singular feminine. Why? Because you remember that, of course, let's look at the type. The type is that this one is proper and this one is proper. So you can see that there's a match in all the properties. But in the case of this one, it is plural, but it is non-human broken plural. And we said non-human broken plural is treated as she. And that is why the sifa of the word is third person, is for a singular feminine. So you can't say al-kutubu al-kasiruna, for instance. No, you can't say kasiruna. Sorry, as-sigar or something. You can't say that. So it has to be saghiratun, as if it's a singular feminine word. That's why when we mentioned and said that the non-human broken plurals are treated as she, so anytime you want to attribute something to it, that thing will take the attribute of she. For instance, look at here. Haqa'ibu, haqa'ibun, haqa'ibun, haqa'ibun. This one's supposed to be bun. Haqa'ibun jamilatun. Haqa'ibun jamilatun. Beautiful bags. Okay. Haqa'ibun. Now, haqa'ibun is the jam'u of haqibatun. Haqibatun is feminine, yes, but haqa'ibun is also a broken plural, non-human broken plural, and it is treated as she, so it's she. So when you come to give its sifa or its adjective, the adjective must reflect how it is treated. Okay, you can't say haqa'ibun jamilatun, no, because this one is not human normal plural. It's not like sayyidatun, for instance. Sayyidatun jamilatun, for instance. But haqa'ibu or haqa'ibun jamilatun. In this case, you have to give the attribute to reflect how it is treated as a singular feminine word. Okay, so these are notes for موصوف صفة. Now we have taken two of the fragments. We'll come back and take the rest of the three shortly after 5 minutes. Don't forget, we have just treated موصوف صفة and we have treated مضاف and مضاف إليه. These are the two very important concepts. The first one is مضاف مضاف إليه. There are two isms. One of them would be light, no alif and lam. The following one will be majrur. The second one, the second fragment is موصوف صفة. Two isms coming together having the same properties. Okay, we'll take the third fragment inshallah after the break. So stay on. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. You're welcome back. Okay, let's go straight to the next slide. Which one is the next slide? Okay, Jamil, and I've just answered one of the questions that one of the brothers sent regarding Sifa and Mawsuf. Very important question there, where he said anti-saghira, and thinking that saghiratun is a sifa for anti. But saghira is when you say anti-saghiratun, you are actually giving an information. You know, you are giving an information, a full sentence. But a fragment is not a sentence. A fragment does not give full sense. That's why it's called shibh jumla. Anti-saghiratun makes sense. You are small, right? So this is a status, a concept that is known as common followed by proper. So it's a sentence. But fragments are not sentence, okay? For instance, when I say anti-saghira, now you are the small. Now, anti-saghira becomes more of a fragment, if you can put it that way, than saying anti-saghiratun, okay? So, but in that case, the saghiratun, when he says anti-saghiratun, saghiratun is nakira, but anti is mu'arraf. So you don't say that is a fragment. Sorry, that is a fragment, because saghiratun is not describing given attribute in saghira, sorry, in anti, but it is actually giving an information or satisfying a curiosity that is raised by anti. When we come to mubtada khabar, or when we come to how to use the pronoun to form a sentence, you get to understand that one clearly. Okay. Now, for now, let's go to the examples for mawsuf sifa here. When we say mawsuf sifa, these are some of the examples from the Quran, okay, where the mawsuf and the sifa have the same properties. And I'm sure with this, you get it clearer, my brother. Qawlan thaqilan. So qawlan thaqilan. You can see qawlan is all in nasb status, mansub and mansub, okay, and it's singular and it is masculine, okay, and it is of course nakira, that is common. So all the four properties meet or match. At-tammatul kubra, SNGT, the status is rafa. Of course, this one is marfu, but because the ending is non-flexible, you remember the non-flexible ism, so that's why the dhamma doesn't appear, but it's also rafa. The number is singular. Sorry, the number is singular, and kubra is also singular. The gender is feminine, and kubra is also feminine. And then the type is mu'arraf bi alif and lam, and this one is also, so this is mawsuf sifa. Suhufan mutahhara, status nasb, number. This one is considered, though it is plural of sahifatun, but it's treated as singular feminine. And that is why this one is also what? Singular feminine. The sifa becomes singular feminine, right? So you can see that the number match. This is singular feminine and this is not singular feminine. When I say singular feminine, I don't mean sofan is singular. You know, structurally, yes, it's plural. Sorry, in its meaning, it's plural. But when it comes to grammatical aspect, it is treated as singular feminine. That's why the adjective or the sifa would have to also follow that particular attribute, right? Bala'un azimun. Now look at here. Bala'un azimun. You see, that's so it allows distance. So it allows separation between the sifa, so the mawsuf and the sifa. And you can see that the SNGT match. Rafa, singular, masculine, and nakira, that is common. Sururun marfu'a, the same thing here. Sururun, the status is rafa, okay? The number is singular feminine, you can see. So singular feminine and singular feminine, okay? Then the gender is, yes, of course, singular is the number, the gender is feminine, and then the type is nakira, common. The same thing here. Asfin ma'kul. Asfin ma'kul. Majrur, majrur. Okay. And the number is singular. And then the gender is feminine. Why is it feminine? Because, sorry, it's masculine, masculine. Asfin and ma'kulin. Masculine, masculine. But why is it majrur here? Because of this kaf. We'll come to learn why is kaf causing this jar, inshallah. Okay. Al-Fawz al-Azim, the same thing here. Rafa, Rafa for the status. Okay. The number is singular, singular. The gender is muzakkar, muzakkar. They are both masculine. And then the type is ma'arraf, mu'arraf. Proper, proper. With the alif and lam. Narun hamiyah. Narun is mawsuf, hamiyah, sifa. What is the properties? What are the properties that match? Status is Rafa, Rafa. The number, singular, singular. The gender is feminine, feminine. You know the gender, you remember the Arabs say so. The Arabs are saying Nar is feminine. And that's why its Sifa is also feminine. You remember that story we took yesterday? Nar is one of those 17 words that are considered feminine by Arabs, right? So when attributing it or when showing its adjective, it's also become feminine. لِغُلَامَيْنِ يَتِيمَيْنِ. You see, غُلَامَيْنِ يَتِيمَيْنِ. So jar status, jar status. Why is it in jar status? Because of this li. We'll come to learn more about that. And then the number is pair. Aini, aini. That's what how I know it is pair. Aini, aini. And then the gender is masculine, masculine. And then the type is common, common. Okay. Maganima, sorry, maganimu kathira. Maganimu kathira. Status is Rafa. Maganimu. Status is Rafa. Okay. And the number is singular. Why is it singular? Yes. Even though you can say that Maganim is a plural word, but it's treated as singular. Feminine also, because its sifa is feminine. This one is plural though, but it's treated as singular feminine. Why? Because it's non-human broken plural. Okay. Maganim. Who knows the singular form of Maganim? Can you type and tell me what is the singular form of Maganim? Maganim. Maganim, Ganam, Ganima. Okay, no, Ganima is okay. That's a good question. Good. Ganima is Ganaim, but this is Maganim. Okay, that's quite a good try. But they are all from, yes. So we have Ganima and Ganaim. Yes, but this is Maganim. Abundant gains. The goat, which goat is that? Not okay. Not Ganaim. Ganaim is different. Not Ganaim, not the goats. Yes. This is Maganim, the singular form is Magnamatun. Yes. Yes, Magnama. Okay? It's Magnama. Anyway. So that is all about the Mawsuf Sifa. Quickly, let's go to the next concept, the most interesting one, and I know a lot of you love this. Harf jar and its victim. Harf jar and its victim. This concept is very interesting because a lot of it are there in our Quran. But let us do something very quickly, and I would just like us to listen and then say after me. Please don't think too much. Sometimes, you know, we like to start asking questions before we get the taste of the thing. But just follow me. Say Batakalawa. Don't think about it, what language it is. Just say Batakalawa. Batakalawa. Like as if it's in a Hausa language, right? Just say Batakalawa. Batakalawa.
Aidan. Okay, who can give me that transliteration in English on the chat box? Batakalawa. Just write it. Ba, comma, ta, comma, ka, comma, la, and then comma, wa, comma. So batakalawa. Very good. No, 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 no. I don't say bacha. I said bata. 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 Thank you very much, Brother Rabiu. But it's batakalawa. Just correct that. Yes, batakalawa. Okay. No, no, no. It's not bata islawa. Hey. So is that how is it? But this is my own language. I'm just 4 minutes. So please don't spoil it for me. I said, yes, bata kalawa. Yes, very good. Very good, Amina. Bata kalawa. Now continue. Can continue with this. Min fi an. Okay, add. Yes, Amina, you are on the right track. Fatima, same. Yes, Rabiu. So add min fi an. So bata kalawa, that's the first line of the poem. Min fi an is the second line of the poem. Min fi an. So that's right. Min fi an. Very not han. Not han. There's no H. It's an. Yes. Min fi an. Very good. So batakalawa min fi an. Hey, Amina Ahmad, you seem to like this language and you are very good at it, right? Min fi an. So batakalawa min fi an. Then the last line is ala hatta ila. Ala hatta ila. Ala hatta ila. So who can give me the poem? Batakalawa min fi'an ala hatta ila. Quickly, quickly. Batakalawa min fi'an ala hatta ila. Oh, mashallah. This one deserves a clap. Oh. Okay, Brother Rabiu. Very good. So now this Batakalawa min fi'an ala hatta ila is a poem every one of us must keep in his mind, right? Yes, this poem is the total huruful jar that are narrated or that are mentioned in the glorious Quran. Okay, so all the huruful jar is what we have just learned. So ba is harful ba, ta is harful ta, ka is harful kaf, la is harful lam, wa is harful wa, min is the word min, which we know, fi is the word fi, an is the word an, ala is the word ala, hatta is the word hatta, and ila is the word ila. Now these are the 11 huruful jar that were mentioned in the glorious Quran, and these are what we mean by harf jar in this particular course. Okay, so when we say harf of jar, we mean batakalawa, min fi'an, ala hatta ila. Okay, now they have victims. Anytime you see any of those harfs, they have a job to do, and their job is to what? To inflict kasra. Sorry, to inflict, not kasra. You see my mistake now, because I'm also infected with that, syndrome. To inflict jar on the following ism. Yes, thank you, Habib. Batakalawa min fi'an ala hatta ila. Very good. Take those in your mind, please. And those are the huruful jar. Very easy to remember. Batakalawa min fi'an ala hatta ila. Now let's go through the concept. These are the rules. It says the harf of jar, okay, they put isms into the status of jar. So any harf jar that you see, okay, any harf jar that you see, always put the ism after it into a jar status. And it can only be succeeded by an ism. Isn't that interesting? Okay, so harf jar, you can't see a harf after harf jar, okay, or a fi'l after harf jar. It has to be an ism, and that ism will be majroor. Very easy to know. So anytime I see harf jar, I'm expecting an ism after it, and that ism is victimized or is inflicted with jar status. What is this jar status? The jar status can be kisra, it can be ayni if it is pair, it can be ina if it is plural masculine, and it can be atin if it is plural feminine, and it can even be ya if it is a special ism, right? These are all signs of jar. Don't forget that. Very good. The second rule says that jar wa majroor do not accept distance relationship. So you can't separate between jar and majroor. Very important. Number 3, there are 17 harf of jar generally in Arabic, but we are learning only 11, those that occur in the Quran or those that are mentioned in the Quran. And those are the ba, ta, ka, la, wa, min, fi, an, ala, hatta, ila. Okay. Now, number 4, the harf of jar is called jarun, and then the ism that it makes jar is called majroor. These are the rules, okay, for jar and majroor. Okay. Now these are the huruf al-jar, and these are the meanings. For some of you, of course, it's in your books, so you go and check them. Okay. Ba, ta, ka, la, wa, min, fi, an, ala, hatta, ila. Bi means with. Oh, wow is for oath. Okay. Now, not the wa, the conjunction wa. This one is for oath. And this one, you will always see it at the beginning of the sentence. It doesn't come in the middle. Okay. Wa harf al-atf is the one that you can see in the middle. A lot of the time, this one is at the middle, at the beginning. For instance, when you say wallahi or was-samai wat-tariq, that's why you don't say was-sama'u. You say was-samai. Wal-layli. You don't say wal-laylu, because that wow is wow al-qasam, wow of oath. Okay. Ala, sorry, I'm going this way. Ba, ta, ba, ta. The ta is for swearing. Kaf is for comparison. Lam is used to mean for or have. Okay. But when it's attached to a pronoun, it is la. Note, anytime this lam is attached to a pronoun, it's having fatha. But if it's attached to any other thing, it's having kisra. You say lillahi ma fi samawati wa ma fil ard. Lahul mulk. So you say lahul al mulk. You don't say lihul mulk. Lahul mulk. Because who is a pronoun. So when it's attached to any pronoun, laka, laka. You say lakum, dinukum. You don't say likum. So when attached to a pronoun is la. When it's attached to any other ism is what? Or any other word, it is kisra. Okay. Now note, we said ism. It's not attached to a fi'l. If it's attached to a fi'l, then it is not harf jar. When I say lillahi, or for instance, in the word liya'lama, liya'lama, ya'lama is a fi'l. So that lam there is not harf jar. We will talk about that inshallah. So batakala wa is for oath, min is harf jar, not man. There's difference between min and man. Min, okay? Fi, in or about. We know this a lot of the time. An, about or away from. Ala, on, upon or against. Hatta. Now note, this two here means hatta. We have hatta for this, and there is another hatta which comes before a fi'l. We are going to talk about that one. Okay, and that one when it comes to jumla fi'l mudara. Okay, so the hatta, there are two. One of them deals with an ism, the other one deals with the fi'l. So this is the other one. Ila is another harf of jar that means to or towards. Okay, these are the huruf al jar. Batakalawa min fi an ala hatta ila. Okay, very good. These are some notes for harf jar. When attached to a pronoun, we said the lam is pronounced la. Otherwise, it is pronounced li. For instance, lakum. But when you say li rasulin, but lakum, okay, because kum is an attached pronoun, but this one is a normal ism. And don't confuse the harf of jar lam with the lam for emphasis. There is lam ta'kid or tawkid, okay? That lam is different from, so the lam for emphasis does not make an ism jar. Inna la nahnu, okay, nahnu. This lam is lam for emphasis, okay? This is different from lam al-jar, lam harf jar, okay? This one, it means most certainly. So the word certainly is indicative in this lam, okay? Okay. And then lana is for us. This one is harf jar. So the difference between that and that. And you see the reason why, the easy way also to know is that the harf of jar would be attached to the pronoun in its independent form. But when it's attached to the pronoun in its attached form, then it is harf jar. Okay. When you say lahua, lahua is showing emphasis, but lahu is showing jar majroor. Okay, very good. Come to the details of that. Don't confuse also the wa harf of jar, which is for oath only, with the wa which is a connector, which is and. We mentioned that. The wa which is a connector, harf atf, mainly is between, it comes between the sentence or between two words or between two phrases. But wow, the harf of qasam or the harf of oath is the harf jar. That one comes at the beginning of a sentence mostly. And min and an are, when they are attached to ma, they are written as mimma. So you say mimma is min ma. So you can see that noon has been eliminated and then the mim has been made double. So mimma, so the shadda there is as a result of assimilating the noon. Okay. And then amma is actually anma. So therefore, when you are doing the i'rab of mimma, you say jar wa majroor. Amma is also jar wa majroor. Okay. Ma here is mawsuliya, bima'na alladhi. Okay. We'll come to that more. But this is jar wa majroor. This is also jar wa majroor. Now, when attached to a pronoun, ila and ala are pronouns with a ya sukun, ya and sukun. So you say alayhi. So it's actually ala and he. So it becomes alayhi. The ya takes sukun. Alayka, alayna, alaykum, and so on. When they are attached to a pronoun, the ya of ala and ila will take sukun. So you do the i'rab as jar or majroor, jar or majroor. Okay, very important. These are some of the examples of harf jar and its majroor. Now, identify the following, the harf jar fragment. Okay, so I will tell you the number and you tell me what are the harf jar fragment in the following. For instance, when I say bil haq is ba is the harf of jar and al haq is the majroor. Okay, bil haq, ba is harf jar, al haq is majroor. So jar or majroor. Now, tell me in this statement, which one is, where is the harf of jar and the fragment? Fi dinillahi, number 8. Fi dinillahi. Tell me where the jar is and where the majroor is. Fi dinillahi. Where is the jar and where is the majroor? Yes, fi is the jar, dini is the majroor. MashaAllah, jazakallah khair. Okay, then where is the jar wa majroor in ka'asfim ma'kul? Ka'asfim ma'kul. Ka'asfim ma'kul. Okay, Aisha says ka is harf jar and then ma'kul is majroor. MashaAllah, very good. Where is the harf jar and majroor in hatta matla'il fajr? Hatta matla'il fajr. Hatta is jar. Yes, says Ismail. Yes, MashaAllah. Okay. Hatta is jar. Yes, it's harf jar. Asfin is majroor. Okay. So you are answering the earlier question. Hatta matla'i. We're talking about hatta matla'i. Hatta is jar. No, it's not. Now note, hatta is not jar. It's jarun. Jarun. Yes, okay, no problem. Jarun is hatta. Jarun ay fa'il al-jar. There's difference between jar and fa'il al-jar. And the fa'il of jar is jarun. Yes. Matla'i is majroor. So jaru majroor. Now, ma'al usri Ma'al usri. Where is the jar majroor? Where is the fragment there? Ma'al usri. Ma'al usri. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for getting lost. Ah, that's good. When you did your bata kalawa min fi'an ala hatta ila, did you mention any ma'a as a harf jar? Okay. So ma'a is mudaf. So this one is idafa. Yes. So this one is idafa. There is no jar harf jar concept here. Let's go to li rabbiki. Li rabbiki. Where is the jar majrur? Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Jar. Where is the jar majrur in number 14? Li rabbiki. Yes, li is harf jar. Yes, so very good, very good. Yes, yes, okay. So li is harf jar and rabbi is majroor. MashaAllah, very good. Okay, so we are done with that. Let's go to the next fragment. The next kind of fragment is harf nasb and its ism. Harf nasb and its ism. I mean, harf nasb is actually certain letters that we also have to learn. Now, take it with me and quickly put them also in an English, what is transliteration? Inna, anna. Just write inna, anna, ka anna. Inna, anna, ka anna, bi anna. Can you write that? Inna, anna, ka anna, bi anna. Inna, anna, ka anna, bi anna. Inna, anna, ka anna, bi anna. Please write it for me. I'm waiting. Inna, anna, ka anna, bi anna. And sometimes even li anna. Inna, anna, ka anna, bi anna. Very good. Inna, anna, ka anna, bi anna. Yes. Lakinna layta la'alla. The next line is lakinna layta la'alla. Lakinna layta la'alla. Lakinna layta la'alla. Very good. Lakinna layta la'alla. Okay. Very good. Very good. Lakinna layta and la'alla. Inna, anna, ka anna, bi anna, lakinna, layta, and la'alla. Very good. Good. These words that we have mentioned are known as the harfs of nasb. Okay. We call them here harfs nasb, harfs of nasb, or adawat nasb, okay, or harfs of nasb. Inna wa akhwatuha. Inna and its sisters. Okay. Inna and there was a question some time ago that why is it not Inna and its brothers, but it's always the sisters? And then we were told that it's nicer and cooler to say sisters, right? So it's Inna and its sisters. Okay. Inna and its sisters, what do they do? What they do is that anytime you see inna, anna, ka anna, bi anna, lakinna, later, and la'alla, they inflict nasb status on the ism after them. They make the ism after them mansub. Now note, when I say mansub, I don't mean it as fatha. I mean it's in the status of nasb. Status of nasb can have the sign of fatha. It can have the sign of aini if it is pair. It can have the sign of ina if it is plural masculine, and it can have the ending of atin if it is feminine masculine, feminine plural, and it can also have the ending of alif, right? If it is special ism, those 5 special isms, right? So that's very important. So when I say nasb, I don't mean fatha. Nasb does not mean fatha. Nasb is a status. Fatha is a sign of a status. One sign only. Very important. Now, let's go and look at the rules of this fragment. The rule says that harf of nasb make the ism after its nasb, meaning it makes it mansub, okay? It can't tolerate distance. That means you can separate between the inna and the sisters, and its victim. For instance, inna ma'al usri yusran. Inna ma'al usri yusran. Now, where is the nasb that was inflicted by inna? Is in the yusran. So you see, ma'al usri has separated between inna and yusran. So inna yusran ma'al usri, that's what it means. You see how Nahaw can help you in your tafsir. So when you say inna usran ma'al usri, that is exactly what Allah wants to say. But there is some eloquence in the what we call the taqdeem and ta'khir. So this is a balagha reason, okay? There's some eloquence in the taqdeem and ta'khir, and we'll talk about this also later. But inna, the job has been done the job has been done on the word yusran. Inna ma'al usri yusran. So the yusran is the action or is the victim of inna. So for instance, but when I say inna Allah alimun hakim, Allah is the victim of inna. Lafzul jalala, Allah is the victim of inna, because inna is one of those words that whenever they come before an ism, they make the ism in the status of nasb. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Amina. Very good. So these are the harfs of nasb. Inna, anna, ka'anna, bi'anna, lakinna, later, and la'alla. Okay? Or la'alla and later. And these are the meanings. Look at the meaning of, look at inna and anna. Look at their meaning. Certainly. And this is what we say. Inna and anna, inna will always come at the beginning of the sentence. Anna is mostly in the middle, which has the meaning of that. Inna is certainly. Ka'anna, as though. Bi'anna, because. You can see bi'anna is because. So the ba here, because, and bi'anna. So it's very easy for you to remember. Lakinna means however. La'alla means so that, or hopefully, or maybe. And later is for the expression of regret. Okay? Alas. La'alla. Okay, sorry, later. Later, shababu ya'udu yawman fa'ukhbiruhu bima fa'ala al-mashibu. Another poet says, okay? So later is used to express wish or far-fetched wish. Okay, very good. So these are some notes for inna and the sisters. The nasb form of the pronoun anna is what? Sorry, anna, not anna. The pronoun anna is what? Ni, you remember that. And the nasb form of nahnu is what? Na. You remember the ni and na. Okay? Ni and na. Ni is used in nasb status, and na is used for nasb status, right? But ni is used with a fail. Okay? And then na can be used for both isms and fails. Now, when attached to a harf or a harf of nasb, these pronouns, that is ni and na, they can be written fully. So you can say inni or inna ni, or inna or inna na. Both of them apply. For instance, alladhina yaquluna rabbana innana. So you can see the inna and then na. So both of them constitute a fragment. Inna and the ism of inna. So both of them constitute the mubtada. Okay? So inna and its ism, a fragment. Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr is actually innana. Innana. So it can be written innana or inna. So inna becomes inna and its ism. Inni ana rabbuka. Inni ana rabbuka is the same thing. Inna and e. So inna and the ism is one fragment. Okay. Innani ana Allahu la ilaha illa ana. Inna and ni. So it's the pronoun of ana, or the attached pronoun for ana attached to a harf, making it a fragment. And that fragment can be written as inni or innani. It's all the same. Okay. And these are some of the examples of the fragment for harf of nasb and its sisters. So you can see from here, anna lahum ajran. So anna ajran lahum. So when it comes to the tafsir, you can see that it's easy for you to know that you have anna and the ism. Yes, we are still in the fragments, please. We are still in the fragment. We are not done yet. Unless if you want which specific fragments, you are talking about. We are still in the fragment, so we are still learning. We are not done yet. Anna and ajran. So anna ajran lahum. So anna and ajran are considered one fragment. Okay. So anna and its ism. Anna and its ism. Okay. Lahum is jar majrur muta'alliq bi khabar. So anna ajran lahum. Okay. Annahum. So annahum. Anna and its ism. Sorry, innahum. Inna and its ism. So inna and its victim. You can call it the victim or its ism. Okay. The victim of inna is hum. Hum in this case doesn't show the fatha because it is damir, and all pronouns are non-flexible. Okay. Innaha, the same thing. Inna and the ism. Ha is also non-flexible, but these two make a fragment. Okay. Inna ilayna iyabahum. Inna iyabahum ilayna. Okay. Inna. So the ism of inna is iyaba. Okay. You can see iyaba. And of course, some of you who have remembered mudaf ilayhi, you can see iyaba and hum. So iyaba is an ism, hum is mudaf ilayhi. Okay. Alayhim. You remember your jar or majroor. So this jar, this majroor. Okay. These are some of the things that you can always do as a practice. But before we do that, if we have more time, we'll do that. But for you to go and just note that the fragment we have learned now is inna, anna, ka, anna, bi, anna, lakinna, later, and la'alla. And the ism that they consider their victim in a sentence are known as a fragment on their own. Okay. The last kind of fragment is Ismul Ishara wal Mashar ilayhi. And this is the last fragment we are going to learn today. Ismul Ishara and Mashar ilayhi. This one is very easy because you know the Asma al-Ishara. Asma al-Ishara are hadha, 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 hadani, haula'i, hazihi, hatani, haula'i, and dhalika, dhalika, dhanika, and ulaika, and then tilka, tanika, and ulaika. All those pointer words, right? Anytime we see them, the ism after them becomes the mushar ilayhi if that ism has alif and lam. If the ism after ism al-ishara is having alif and lam, then there is fragment, no sentence. Note, not sentence. When I say dhalika al-kitabu, it's a fragment, it's not a sentence. Dhalika al-kitabu is a fragment. Ism al-ishara, the second one is mushar ilayhi. Okay. Now, using pointer words to make a fragment, the pointer must be followed by immediately by alif and lam. That means the ism that will come after the ism al-ishara must have alif and lam. Okay. And the four properties of the pointer and the pointed at, that mushar ilayhi, they must match. So if the ism al-ishara is muzakkar, like hadha, then the mushar ilayhi must be muzakkar. So hadha al-kitab, hadha al-kitab. I can't say hazal madrasati, for instance. Or yes, of course you can say that. So they must match in the number, gender, type, and status. Okay, but don't forget all asma'ul ishara are what? Are proper. So anytime you can have that, then the ism after it must be proper. If it becomes common, then there is no fragment. That's what it means here. Okay. To make a sentence, the pointer should not have alif and lam. Okay. Not the pointer. The pointed at should not have alif and lam. Okay. If the pointed at has alif and lam, the pointed at should not have alif and lam. Yes, that's correct. Not pointer. The pointed at should not have alif and lam. One moment. Sorry. So the pointed at should not have alif and lam. Okay. So the example of that is when I say, sorry. Yes, when I say dhalika al-kitabu, it's a fragment. But when I say dhalika kitabun, dhalika kitabun, that one is a sentence because there's no alif and lam in the pointed at. Okay, very important. And these are the asma al-ishara. Hadha, hadani, haula'i. هذه هاتان هؤلاء. Of course, this one is for masculine rafa status, and this one is the nasb and jar status. And feminine hazihi, and then these are the nasb and jar status. So when they are nasb or jar, this is how they take the form they take, and when they are rafa, this is the form they take. That one is for pointing at something near, and these ones are for pointing at something that is far. Okay, and these are some of the examples of Ismul Ishara and Mushar Ilayhi, which we can take along. You can note them down and go and see how they work. So فَلْيَعْبُدُوا رَبَّ هَذَا الْبَيْتِ. So the هَذَا الْبَيْتِ is a fragment. Okay, this house, not this is a house. So رَبَّ هَذَا الْبَيْتِ is this house. فِي هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا, in this worldly life. Okay, this worldly life is a fragment. هَذَا الْقُرْآن is a fragment, not a sentence. تِلْكَ حُدُودُ اللَّهِ. Tilka hududu, you can see that this is a sentence. Why? Because the hududu does not have alif and lam. Ulaika ashabu. So this is a sentence. Why? Because ashabu doesn't have alif and lam. Hazihi naqatullahi is a sentence because naqatu does not have alif and lam. Okay? And these are some of the examples that we can easily relate to. Ha'ula'il qawm is a fragment. Ha'ula'il qawm is a fragment. But hadhihi sabili is a sentence. Hadhihi sabili is a sentence. Dhalika mata'ul hayati dunya is a sentence. But tilka dar is a fragment. Hadhani khasmani is a sentence. Hadha rabbi is a sentence. Ha'ula'i shufa'a'una is also a sentence. Okay? في هذا القرآن is a fragment. هذه الشجرة is a fragment. إن هذا عدوك, sorry, عدو لك is a sentence because adu doesn't have alif and lam. So anytime we see ismul ishara, the ism after it must have alif and lam for it to become a fragment. But if there's no alif and lam, then it is sentence. Okay? MashaAllah. Jazakumullah anna kull khair. Thank you very much. Today we have taken 5 minutes of your time. But alhamdulillah, hopefully we have learned something. And tomorrow we will take a lot of exercises on the fragments. Don't worry. We'll have a lot of exercises to do when we come very early. The first 5 minutes, we will use it to do exercises on the fragment. And hopefully today we have learned something. Today we have learned all that has to do with our pronouns, the attached pronouns. And then we have learned 5 different fragments, which are in Arabic. Idafa, that's mudaf mudaf ilayhi, mawsuf, sifa, jar wa majrur, inna and the sisters and their victims, as well as ismul ishara and the mushar ilayhi. These fragments are very key. So we will look at some of the examples and exercises tomorrow so that we will have it well grounded. Thank you so very much. Khalifa, Ahmad Khalifa, what are you asking? You repeat the condition. What is the condition? Kindly go back to the previous. Sorry, I did not see your questions, but inshallah, tomorrow we will work on them. We will discuss the fragments with some exercises, but please come very early tomorrow so that 10 o'clock GMT, not tomorrow, sorry, Monday. You see, I'm so much in it that, but yes, unfortunately for you, you will have a lot of exercises to do before Monday. But so please, maybe you can ask some of the questions on the platform, our WhatsApp platform, and more clarification would be done. As well as those of you who are so much interested in the evening classes for revision, come to the English classes, the evening classes for revision, and I'm sure it will be clearer, or it will be made clearer for you before tomorrow, because you will have a lot of exercises to do at the weekend, believe me. For some of you who want to really learn this program, you need to do your Edmodo exercises. And the Edmodo, I think the code has been shared here by one of our sisters, and hopefully all of you would be there so that we'll get it easy. It's not really easy for you to get this whole concept in 2 hours. We're just doing it as a form of intensive what is it called, intensive sharing of those concepts, but time is not enough. So you have to put in extra effort. There is no shortcut. You know, in some of these things, you need to dedicate time, your energy, your resources, and be determined and be open-minded. Because the fact is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us, Inna sil'atallahi ghaliya. When Allah tells you that his commodity is expensive, then you should know what it means. For you to understand the Quran and be easily identified with the verses of the Quran, or identify yourself easily with the verses of the Quran, you have to put in a sacrifice. You have to put in effort. You have to be sincere with yourself. Nobody can feed you with these concepts. It just have to be, it needs your effort. So Ismail, please share on the platform and on the WhatsApp platform the problem you are having with Edmodo. Share what specific problem you are having. Then it will be solved. Okay? If you go to www.edmodo.com and you are able to register as a student, you just put in the code that we have shared with you. If you have the code, then please share your problem, or maybe send a picture of what you are facing onto the platform. I'm sure it will be solved in a matter of minutes. I mean, you shouldn't be having problem with Edmodo platform, you know. And if you have given your email address, you should have been receiving that one. You don't even have to do anything. All you have to do is click on the link that I gave you, and you come into the class. If you have given your email, and if you have received a mail from me, it will be easy. You know, there is no, and believe me, if you don't do the exercises on Edmodo, maybe you will learn something from me directly, but you cannot teach it. You can't share it. And that's not the purpose for which we are doing this. We are doing this so that we share the knowledge. Just as we are doing it to you, you should also do it for others. يرحم من في الأرض يرحمكم من في السماء الراحمون يرحمهم الرحمن. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ says, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the understanding. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Malawian youth, I believe you have received my my mail by now, because yes, I remember this email, and I'm sure you have received my Edmodo mail, right? I have communicated to you, all those who have shared their emails, surely they have received, Abdul Hamid, that is, Abdul Hamid, have you received an email from me, please? Yes, you have to. Please check and make sure that you just follow the email and you can just answer your questions. Currently, I've posted not less than, I mean, I'm sure there are not less than 50 questions, I mean, over there. Yes, khair inshallah. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wal 'asri innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa 'amilus salihat wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Qul huwallahu ahad, Allahus samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakun lahu kufuwan ahad. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas, malikin nas, qul a'udhu bi falaq, min sharri ma khalaq, min sharri ghasiqin idha waqab, min sharri naffathati fil 'uqad, min sharri hasidin idha hasad. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas, ilahin nas, min sharri waswasil khannas alladhi الناس من الجنة والناس والله يعصمك من الناس والله يعصمك من الناس والله يعصمك من الناس إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. وإياكما سيستر أحلام النبيلة. جزاكم الله خير. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.